All right, y'all, here we go. I pulled out the slides that were more specific to MLU and discourse functions in Toddlerhood because I wanted to highlight this particular information because it pertains to your assignment. All right, so let's get going. All right, so first of all, why do you care? Why, as a SLP, would you even begin to want to know about grammatical development and MLU and morphemes and parts of speech and all that good stuff? So primarily because they may be therapy goals for your clients. And if you don't know what people are normally able to do, then you don't know if the person in front of you is having a problem or not. You need to be able to identify them on tests. You need to be able to decide, is this what you're looking at? Like, is this the morpheme you were looking for? And you may have a kid who, remember we talked about late language emergence, and we talked about how kids who are late talkers or who have late language emergence may catch up for all intents and purposes, but they may still have, when you measure their development, in some ways, but they may have more subtle differences in other ways. And one of the ways that we usually see a subtle difference or area of deficit is when we look at their grammar and morphology and their staging. So there you go. All right, so another thing is that, so we can look at it in terms of it being a qualitative problem. Language problem, if we know the details of what to expect in a language sample, then we know if they're experiencing a problem in quality. And if we're doing mean length of utterance and we realize that they're not meeting age expectations when it comes to the actual numbers, then we can say they're having a quantitative problem. So all in all, you have to know it because it is a big part of the language part of being a speech language pathologist. All right, so let's talk about what grammatical morphemes actually are. So a morpheme is the smallest linguistic unit that still carries meaning. So there you go. So can't be divided into any smaller parts. Now, a grammatical morpheme is some kind of inflection that's added to your word. And since we're talking about grammatical morphemes, it adds a piece of grammar. So, and we see these start to develop as early as 18 months of age when children first start combining words. So Roger Brown, and we'll get to this 2 slides from now, way back in the day, came up with an order and age of acquisition for 14 English grammatical morphemes, and we'll look at those in just a second. So let's talk about, when we talk about morphemes, again, it's the smallest meaningful unit in language. And they can be free morphemes. So a lexical morpheme is just that, it's vocabulary. So it's the words in your lexicon. So in this particular example that I found using Google, they have teach or elephant as the lexical examples, or it can be functional, like and, the, so, but. So all of those things are function words, conjunctions, articles, more conjunctions, and they are grammatical glue. And when we go into the next set of slides about toddlerhood, we'll talk about different kinds of sentence structures and utterance structures and the, so, and but become a big part of expanding those things. All right, so now let's talk about bound morphemes. So a bound morpheme can be what's called derivational, respect, or release, or reply, or review. The prefix un, the suffix ly, which makes something into an adverb usually, or again, derivational like ness, like goodness, friendliness, etc. So one of the things that when we talk about Brown's 14 grammatical morphemes and the development of them, and in thinking about your actual assignment in young children, the kinds of things that you're looking for when you do MLU, which is mean length of utterance, you're looking for lexical morphemes. Well, you're looking for all of these things, but what you're going to count towards your morpheme count, and we'll get to that in a minute, but specifically, I want you to be looking for inflectional morphemes or grammatical morphemes. So let's move on and let's look at the table. This is the URL that I found this particular table. There's a great one in your book that you can find on, let's see. So on page 170 in your book, Language Development from Theory to Practice by Khara, Turnbull, and Laura Justice, third edition, their table 6.2 shows you the grammatical morphemes that are acquired in early childhood. And that's exactly what you're seeing in this table as well. So the first one that you're looking for is any example of present progressive. So like I eating, so a subject and an ing verb. So in the sample, the YouTube sample that you have, you're looking at a child who is 24 months. So she may have one or two of these, or she may not, and that's okay. You're also looking for the prepositions in and on. They don't get any kind of special treatment in terms of counting them extra in the morpheme count, but those are the kinds of things developmentally you're looking for. And she may also have a plural here and there, or she may not. So as you can see, most of the 14 grammatical morphemes start to emerge, well, all of them emerge somewhere between 19 months and 2.5 years, which is 30 months. So, but you don't expect kids to get to mastery, which is this second number, or rather anywhere in between here is what we consider within normal limits. So some kids will have them emerge as early as 19 months and some kids as late as 28 months. So those are the kinds of things that you need to keep in mind. All right, so we're talking about when we start caring about MLU is when children get to the two-word stage. So the two-word stage is generally after a child has 50 words that they can consistently use. They start to put more than one word together at the same time, like mommy go, want juice, want milk, things like that. And it is as this says, it marks the beginning of syntax, because when you only have one word, there's no need for syntax because syntax is about word order. All right, and it also starts to once children get to this stage, they demonstrate that they understand how words, the meaning of words, are related. So, and that's what they mean by semantic relation. And then they can use words for a lot of different kinds of functions, and we're going to talk about that. And actually, that's something that you guys are going to be thrilled to hear me say I'm going to add into this particular assignment, because you're not using actual children like you would have originally because of the pandemic. And we're certainly not going to expose young children to non-family members. And if you don't have a young child already in your family, we certainly don't want you producing one unless you really feel like it. But even if you did right now, you would be done with this class before they got to morphemes and syntax. So it's just not going to work out in terms of time. All right, so we're going to add in different functions, and we're going to talk about those later on in the slides. All right, so let's talk about what the heck is MLU. Well, MLU stands for mean length of utterance. And in this case, the mean, or it means, no pun intended, it means average. So it is the average length of an utterance. So some utterances are going to be long, and some of them are going to be very short, but when you add them all together and divide by the number of utterances, what you get is the average length, and that is the mean length in morphemes. So there are different ways you can calculate MLU. You can do it either in mean length of utterance, as in number of words, or you can do it as the mean length of utterance in morphemes. So for example, let's say that, all right, I'm going to bust out and see if I can do an annotation. I am sure this is going to go well. All right, so I'm going to get rid of my laser jet, my highlighter here, and we want to use text. So for example, if we have an utterance like mommy, mommy's phone. If we talk about it in terms of number of words, so in number of words, we have 2. If we talk about it in terms of number of morphemes, we have 3, because we have the word mommy, that's 1. Let's see if I can play with color and mess all of this up, or if nope, it just changes all of it. That's annoying. Not nearly as fun. All right, whatever. Okay. So we have mommy, which is 1 morpheme. And we have the plural, not plural, the possessive affix, which is a grammatical morpheme. It is a bound morpheme so it's the possessive, and it counts as a morpheme too, as well. And in fact, the second morpheme. So mommy's is 2 morphemes and phone is 1. And that gives us a total of 3 morphemes. So you can see that over the course of a bunch of different utterances, so let's do another one. Let's make it a different color, because we might as well. So let's do another example. So if we did her eating, in terms of number of words, again, we have 2 words. And again, in terms of number of morphemes, we have 3. because we have her is one morpheme and eat is one morpheme, and the ing for the present progressive, which is the earliest developing grammatical morpheme according to Brown's morphemes, is adds a second morpheme to that word. So her eating is actually two morphemes, eat and ing. So now let's say, so we have our two utterances. So just for fun and safety's sake, let's do another one. Want juice. By all means, let's make it a different color because why not? All right, so want juice, number of words, oops, equals 2. Number of morphemes equals 2. So there's nothing special going on here. It's the word, whoops, go away. It's the word want, poop, and the word juice. So number of words 2, number of morphemes 2. So let's take these three utterances and all right, so now things are really, no, let's stick with text because my goodness. All right, so if we're going to figure out what the number of, what the MLU for these three utterances is, remember we have to do the, okay, that's just annoying. I thought I changed. Let's go here. Okay. The total number of morphemes divided by, that's fantastic, divided by the total number of utterances. All right, so we're going to add, we're going to do it first in MLU and words and then MLU and morphemes just to kind of make the point. All right, so here we go. So MLU equals, we'll say MLU and words equals 2 plus 2 plus 2. So 2, 2, 2. All right, so 2 plus 2 plus 2 equals 6. So we have our total number of morphemes equals 6. And then now we want to divide that by the total number of utterances. So there are 1, 2, 3 utterances. So it is 6 divided by 3. So our MLU in words equals, so let's do this. MLU, oops, in words equals 2. Okay, so there we go. So now we want to figure out MLU in morphemes. All right, so now, go back to my arrow. So now we have 3 plus 3 plus 2. So let's go back here. Whee! Equals 3 plus 3 plus 2, which equals 8. So our MLU, and we have still only 3 utterances, 1, 2, 3 utterances. So now we have 8. So that equals 8 divided by 3, which equals, so our MLU in morphemes equals 8 divided by 3, which is 2.6 repeating. I'm going to check that on my calculator because it's late and I would feel super stupid. Yep, so it equals 2 2/3, or we'll say 2.67. So you can see that over the course of a lot of utterances, the difference between doing MLU in words versus MLU in morphemes can make a big difference. All right, so there you go. Generally speaking, you want 50 utterances or more. I believe that the language sample, again, because you're just starting out, this is your first opportunity to dip your feet into doing MLU. The language sample that I gave you for the YouTube video, I don't believe gets to 50 utterances. So if you get less than 50, don't panic. All right, so that's the difference between MLU and morphemes. So mean length of utterance, which means average length of utterance, and in morphemes versus in words. All right, so now we're going to talk about Brown's stages and what they mean. Okay, so here we go. All right, whoops. Well, that's unfortunate. All right, let's see. Clear all drawings. So now we want to, Brown followed, I believe they were his own children. He looked at their grammatical development from birth to age 5, and he divided the structures that they learned in the order that he learned them into roughly 5 stages. So, okay, so let's go back. So these are Brown's 14 grammatical morphemes, and it says early years 3 to 5, but again, you can see that many of these actually develop way sooner than that. So all of them, for most kids, have already started to emerge well before age 5, because remember, age 5 is 60 months. So top of this one is 4 years 2 months, 4 years 1 month, etc. So 28 months is 2 years 4 months, 2 years 6 months, 2 years 8 months, 9 months, 9 months, 3 years 10 months, 3 years 4 months, 3 years 3 months, blah 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 blah. There you go. All right, so moving right along, here we go. All right, so Brown's stage 2 is when we really start seeing children emerge with the gonna, wanna, have to's of speech, like gonna eat, and it is an expansion on the present progressive to early embedding. It's when we first start to see complex syntax evolve, where kids are actually trying to put more than one verb into a sentence. All right, so when we get to stage 3, the MLU is gotten to be roughly between 2.5 and 3. So again, sometimes the utterance may still be very short, 1 or 2 words, but sometimes it may be very long, like Barbie is going to the party. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 morphemes long. Because remember, when you have an average, some are going to be longer, some are going to be shorter, but once you average them out, they're going to land somewhere between 2.5 and 3. So at this point, we're adding auxiliary verbs. We're using the interrogative reversals like, can he go? And we're starting to use yes/no questions like, is that mine? Things like that. So we're getting into more and more complex syntax. So once you get to stage 4, where the MLU is now between 3 and 3.5, you're going to have what are called object, noun, phrase complements. And you may be thinking, oh, sweet Marcy, I really don't care. And I so don't want to have to learn this, because please tell me that I will never have to use this in my speech pathologist life. Well, I hate to tell you, you absolutely will. And one of the cool things about this, though, is it makes you a superhero, because what you can do is, remember when we said one of the reasons you have to know this is because you may use it as a goal. So increasing the mean length of an utterance for kids who have really constrained syntax or really short utterances for their ages. One of the great ways to target this, one of the easy ways, is to do this object, noun, phrase complement. And so you can teach, and sometimes these are called carrier phrases, and there are other ones you can use, but great ones like I know and I think and I hope and pretend are really easy ways to add words to utterances without in a very predictable sort of way. I know Superman is strong. I think we're going to go to the zoo. I hope you can come to my party. Pretend we are in the woods. So there is what you're looking for are the 2 verbs. So are and go. Can, come, are, pretend. So know, think, hope, pretend. Those are all verbs. And then you have the rest of the verb, the second verb structure. So the I know and the I think, I hope, and pretend. All of those are in the object position, the subject and subject verb, the subject I, verb know, and then you have object is strong. All right. Blah, blah, blah. And there are, one of the reasons they are object, noun, phrase complements instead of, there are no conjunctions between the 2 clauses. All right. Now, one of the ways you can get yourself messed up when you're looking for complex syntax is when you see an infinitive verb like to color or to dance, they are and the I like, they are not, there's no subject or verb in the to color, right? I like to color, not I like that Superman can color, or whatever. It makes an it makes an infinitive verb, like which is what the to color is, or to dance. All right, so stage 4 continued. We said that interrogative reversals and WH questions appear. So why are you doing that? Where did you get these toys? Things like that. And then finally, you're starting to see and as one of the first conjunctions being added to clauses. Now, one of the things where you can get in trouble with this also is that a lot of times kids will use and as an utterance starter, not as an actual conjunction. So they'll say things like, I brush my teeth, and sometimes I go to bed after that. Well, with that big fat pause in the center, you're not really sure whether what you're looking at are two different utterances or whether you're actually looking at two clauses that are being conjoined with the word and. So the example I just used was not great. So I brush my teeth, and sometimes we go to the mall. Okay, so that and there is definitely just a utterance starter, because you can see here in I brush my teeth and go to bed, both of those are, they're related. They're two related clauses. You be the mommy and I be the daddy. So you be the mommy, and yesterday we went to the movies. That is not a coordinating conjunction. That is a conjunction starting in a new utterance. So there you go. Not just linking nouns in a series, or not just starting a new thought with the word and. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so Brown stages, stage 5 and beyond, is where you see relative clauses begin to develop. A relative clause acts as an adjective, where the entire clause actually describes a noun or pronoun. Okay, sometimes you see a relative clause introduced with words like that or who, but not always. That's the not at all. If you have a conjunction, so remember the conjunctions are the fanboys, for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. Fanboys, that's what it spells. Okay, so let's look at a couple examples of relative clauses. That was the time my daddy was holding me. She'll give you something to him. She'll give something to him that he eats. So remember, we said that they can be combined by that or who. She loves somebody that she knows. Only the ones who are getting baptized get to light their candle. Those are some examples of relative clauses. My cursor is being annoying. Oh, for goodness sakes. Okay, so one of the other things, though, that I want you to pay attention to in your, that I'm going to add, and like I said, I know you're going to be super excited about, is I want you to pay attention to discourse functions. So the sample that you have in the YouTube video, she uses a discourse function is what are you using your utterance for? So there are heuristic functions, which we use when we're requesting information about the world. So sometimes a little one will say something like, Mommy, what this? That's a heuristic function. What is this? I'm requesting information about my world. Sometimes we use our our utterances. So let's go back to the object, noun, phrase complements. Pretend, in the example we just looked at, pretend you're the mommy and I'm the daddy. That's an imaginative function. We use it to tell stories or to make believe and pretend. Or sometimes we use them in informative functions, which theoretically is what I'm doing now. Now, being able to use a variety of discourse functions, and it says discourse functions continued because the slides are out of order. You're welcome. Is a really, really important aspect of communication development in toddlerhood, because it shows that children are really understanding the nuances of use in their language or with their language and with their communication. So other things that you want to look out for in your sample is, did little Kaylee use her utterances to initiate a topic? So one of the things, and it says sustain a topic for several turns, but one of the things about that is that a child, you usually know how many turns a child can sustain the same topic for based on their age. So for example, Kaylee is 24 months or 2 years old, and so you would expect her to be able to maintain topic for about 2 turns. So she should be able to talk about the same thing for about 2 turns. And then they'll bug out and go do something else. They really don't care what you're trying to do. They just want to tell you about what they're doing. And that's very typical in toddlerhood. And I think it's something we probably fight all our lives. And they really aren't great at following a conversation, so they're not going to ask for clarification. So if you say something and they miss it, they don't really care. They're just going to let it go, and that's the unlikely to seek clarification. All right, so hopefully that will help you with your assignment. The bottom line is that your sample, I'm really looking for, can you transcribe this sample? Can you calculate the MLU? If you identified any bound morphemes, what were they? And is her language appropriate for her age? So I want you to look at the age of appearance for Brown's 14 grammatical morphemes. Think about where Kaylee is in her language development and make some kind of clinical assertion about it. Is she within normal limits? Is she doing the kinds of things that you would expect a child her age to do? All right, I will catch up with y'all in the next set of slides. I hope this is helpful. Please send me emails, leave me comments, etc. See ya.